Let's read through another email. The title here is Accessible Learning Platforms. The email reads, Hi there, I wanted to see if you have any updates on accessible learning platforms since your article came out. Thanks so much for all of this research. It's very helpful. And I will link to the referenced post in the description for this video. And by the way, I am reading from a screenshot of my reply to this email. I've redacted my reply. You're going to get it now, but I could not find the original email in my inbox. As for updates, we've continued to use the software that I started with. And that is because we've made so many edits and modifications. And by now we're familiar with the dashboard and how everything works, that it just doesn't make any sense to start over. And by the way, when I say we, I mean myself and my developer. We've just done so much work. We've got everything how we like it. And by the way, if you have access to the courses, you can expect a redesign within the next 2 to 3 weeks. But just so many changes have been made that we're not going to start over. I've been somewhat satisfied with the LMS, but with a few caveats. First, there were several accessibility issues, including keyboard navigability issues. Two, I have not received any substantive support. And when I say that, what I mean is I will get a reply if I send in a ticket, but I have not received a response where they have materially advanced me in helping me with my problem. And at one point, I wrote in, told them about the keyboard navigability issue, and received a response acknowledging that there was actually an issue. And then I was told that it would be fixed in the next version release. Well, that version release came and went with the accessibility issues still there. And then I wrote back, and then I was told that I had never sent in a ticket. And then I forwarded them the email thread, at which point I think I was told that it would be in a later release. And at that point, I've had other communication with them, and I've just been extremely dissatisfied. So I've had to take everything in house, and I don't even write them anymore. I don't send in any tickets. There hasn't been a point to doing so. So and they've even told me, yeah, like you'll need a developer for that. And it's like some of the fixes they should really take on as the LMS provider, but it's understood now by me that it's not going to happen. So I've taken it on everything in-house. And that leads to my advice. If you are researching the LMS platform or software for you, one thing I would look for, and I don't think this is going to be a feature in many, but one thing I would look for is full code access. And that is because you are now in control in the sense that you can make direct accessibility fixes. And this isn't the same as the ability to customize the theme or to maybe customize a few things within your dashboard. Also, this isn't related to the ability to upload content. I'm talking about making sure that you have actual code access to everything, by the way, so that you can fix anything on the platform or with the software. That's something I would look for. I don't expect it to be even really featured, but I don't expect it to be available for most, but it is something that I would look for, and I would prioritize that. Not that you want an accessibility project on your hands, but it is something where this gives you control over accessibility issues, so that you're not in a situation where you're going back and forth with support and trying to get them to make a fix. This way, you can make a fix if you need to. Now, I would also look for an ACR, and you might know this as a VPAT, but a VPAT is just the template. The ACR is the completed template. So an ACR is the accounting of the accessibility for what is usually a product, and in this case, it will be for the LMS. Now, I'm not going to rely upon the ACR, but it is something that I would look at favorably if they have one. But I'm going to actually evaluate the ACR myself. And so that also means that I'm going to ask for access to the platform so that I can audit it. And maybe it's not a full audit, but what I'm getting at is the last thing you want is to build out an entire course curriculum and then find yourself with a serious accessibility issue that you cannot fix, and that you are now reliant upon the provider to provide support for, and you don't know how they're going to respond. Maybe the LMS provider provides excellent support and gets the fix in right away, but you don't know if that will be the case. And so, for that reason, I do recommend that you do your due diligence with whoever you're going to select, because if you make the wrong selection, then then you're at a point where you're stuck, and you have this entire course curriculum, you have all of your training material or your courses or whatever it is, and you're tied to them, and you're reliant upon this provider, and you're not in control. And you also, there are just so many reasons why this can be problematic, and you don't want to find yourself in this situation. But I am going to look at an ACR, and that's something I'm going to consider. I'm also going to see if the LMS provider features accessibility, talks about accessibility, what they say about it, the level of detail, if they have an accessibility statement. I'm going to look at all of those things. And one thing to look at is, and scrutinize, is their attention to detail. Are they glossing over accessibility, or do they talk about it and really get into the details? And really, if I'm an LMS provider, I'm going to go into the details and talk about everything that's been done. I'm going to talk about the audit. I'm going to talk about user testing. And user testing is not necessary, but if they have user testing, that's going to work in their favor. I'm going to look at their accessibility statement. I don't want to hear of accessibility. I want to find out everything about what you're doing with accessibility. And any smart LMS provider is going to really embrace accessibility and make sure that their platform is fully WCAG conformant. But even if they've done all these things, I want to make sure for myself. So that's why I talk about getting access to the platform and auditing it, and making sure that there are no accessibility issues, because you just don't want to get started and then find yourself in a situation where you do have an accessibility issue and you cannot fix it, and it's just ongoing. And I can tell you that another way that an ACR might be susceptible is if the ACR does not cover some of the more some of the not as obvious screens or pages for the LMS. So that's going to be another thing that you really want to, when you do audit, you want to be thorough, because maybe there's a pop-up that comes up that causes there to be a keyboard trap, and then you find out about that, let's say 3 weeks in to rolling out this course, and you've got students taking it, and then you find out you have an inaccessible course. So that's obviously a huge problem. And if you find out about something, you have to be able to fix it. But that's why I'm going to be meticulous in really, this would be like a home inspection. I'm going to be inspecting this because I don't want to find out later that my roof leaks or that my foundation is cracked. That's what you don't want to have happen later. And so, yes, a provider that talks about accessibility and embraces accessibility, definitely something that I'm going to prefer that, right? Like, that's something that you're going to be in my pool of potential candidates, but it doesn't mean you automatically go through. Another thing I'm going to look at is who issued the ACR. If you issued your own ACR, it goes in the trash, or the recycling bin. If your ACR is issued by a widget seller, it also goes in the recycling bin. So, whoever, these are the details I'm going to get into. Who issued your ACR? Okay, let's find out. And then I'm going to look at the ACR. I'm not just, what I'm getting at here is I'm not just going to take their word for it. I need to find out for myself, because you are likely building, anybody that's looking into an LMS platform, you're probably building something significant on it. And what you don't want to have happen is you find out you have accessibility issues later and you can't fix them. So you need to take proactive steps. You need to exercise due diligence, and really look at this as if you're on your own. And so that's what I'm going to look at. That would be my advice if you are looking at learning management systems is to make sure that if there are, like, first I want to make sure that it's as accessible as possible. And if you audit, you don't find any accessibility issues, that's a great sign, right? Especially if you've thoroughly audited, that's what I'm going to look for. But I also want to make sure that if something does come up later on, that I'm able to, I have code access. Also, you'll want to ask about their support. Hey, if we, I would even contract in for support. That could be a potential thing. Like, if we need help with accessibility, we can get accessibility support and actual remediation, like actually make the fixes. That's one thing I've noticed just through experience. Actually making the fixes can be hard to come by. People don't work quickly. It's just, for some reason, when it comes to actually making a fix, there's just all these bureaucratic hurdles, and people are very hesitant to actually make a change. And with accessibility, if we find an issue, we need it changed. We don't need it changed. We need it fixed right away. So with LMS platforms, it's going to be a matter of, yes, research, look for WCAG conformance claimed, look for ACRs, look for detail, attention to detail, and really an embracing of accessibility. But it can't just be general. We can't just gloss over it. And then I also recommend you take it a step further and you audit whatever platform you have finalized your selection as, to make sure that you're choosing the right one. And then also, I'm going to look for the feature that you have the ability to edit the code. So again, I will link to the article where you'll find much of this advice in the article. I will link to that article on LMS platforms in the description, and then I will include a link to my WCAG course, which I recommend that you are familiar with accessibility. This course isn't directly related to that, but you do need to become familiar with accessibility, so that you know better what to look for with accessibility. Now, this wouldn't be because you're going to audit, but it's just going to help you as a procurement agent understand accessibility and all that goes into it, so that you're not working from really an information disadvantage. And then also, I will link to accessible.org services, so that you can look up if you want to go through accessible.org for services, for audits, etc. That will be there in the description as well.